But few things are very clear. Whether it's the climate change, whatever we do in terms of how we are going to move from stabilization to inclusive and sustainable growth, the GDP does suffer. The flooding this year is going to shave off roughly 0.5% from our GDP growth forecast. So it's real. And with respect to population, the real GDP growth number, wherever we grow, whichever nominal GDP number we get to, is clearly going to be a dampener if we don't manage it and if we don't control it. In that context, it's not only about the economy that we live in today, it's also about the new economy. Because when we talk about the population dividend, and with 64% of our population under the age of 30, this is not about governments giving jobs. I think we have to get out of that mindset. It's the ladies and gentlemen who are freelancers today. It's the ladies and gentlemen who are leading our IT services. Ladies and gentlemen who are leading our IT economy at this point in time. We need to upskill them, we need to reskill them. That's how we are going to go forward with respect to this population dividend. और उसमें AI, digital infrastructure, blockchain, Web 3.0, मैं अभी अली चीमा साहब को अभी ये कह रहा था कि इनको मैं मुबारक दे रहा था कि a Pakistani who has done, American Pakistani, who has done extremely well for himself. And I had the privilege of meeting him in New York on the sidelines of UNGA, who has donated money at your institution to set up blockchain. Agar aaj hamare bachche aur bachchiyan, they are writing codes at $2, $3, $4 per hour, and if they come up the curve through your institution, sir, and other institutions, as we scale it up, and if they can start writing codes at $12, $13 per hour, they help themselves and they help the country. So the new economy is very, very important. Whether it's, as I said, AI, digital infrastructure, Web 3.0, blockchain, crypto, as we go forward. And I mention it because we keep on talking about how we're going to grow our economy, but the latest chain analysis shows that we are now, as a country, number 3 in terms of crypto participation. It used to be number 10, we are now number 7, and now we're number 3. And it's very important in the context of population, it's very important in the context of youth, because all of us, or most of us, I see a lot of young men and women here, don't take me wrong, but a lot of us are going to fade away. It's this population which is going to lead the country, and therefore having the Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority so that we can take this discussion forward for the young ladies and gentlemen who are participating in this activity, but in a regulated way. Now, 2.55% is a statistics. I'm sure all the speakers before me must have talked about it. And I'm sure Country Director Osama is going to talk about this from a World Bank perspective as well. But the issues related to that 2.55%, if we just leave the GDP number outside, 40% of Pakistani children under the age of 5 stunted. Now, this is intellectual poverty. This is our future workforce. This is the future leadership of Pakistan, which, as they enter with a handicap which we can ill afford. The second one is learning poverty, especially girls out of school. And again, every study, whether it's in Bangladesh, whether it's others, everything that has been talked about is the women participation in the workforce. And therefore, getting these young women back into schools so that they become part of the productive workforce, inshallah, as we go forward. I think the point that Dr. Arif, if I understand correctly, I was just listening to you, and you're absolutely right, because a lot of our premises is based on the fact that if at times we say that 39% of Pakistan is urban, the reality is urbanization has been on the rise. And I do believe that roughly 88% of our population now lives in areas with urban characteristics. And therefore, the context of urban poor, and therefore, ये डॉक्टर साहबा मैंने आपके भी सेशन में ये मैंने बात की थी कि पॉपुलेशन काउंसिल को भी इस पे ज़रा फोकस करना चाहिए, because in the Kachi Abadis, the failure of water, sanitation, hygiene, I think it's going to be very, very critical. Because when I talk about stunting, the reality is we have done interventions on the food side. But the reality is that all of this comes together, whether it's sanitation, is clean water, is spacing between the childbirths. If we want to address stunting, we'll have to do it in a very, very comprehensive way as we go forward. और फिर जो इंटरकनेक्टेडनेस है उसकी हम पहले बात कर चुके हैं कि अगर पॉपुलेशन डिक्रीज होती है उसका कार्बन एमिशंस में, although from our perspective is very much around adaptation, but still everything that we need to do in terms of contributing to emissions coming down is also critical. Now, how do we take it forward? Because हर जगह ये बात होती है कि the how part also needs financing. And I think as the finance minister, I would be remiss if I don't talk about how we do and how we finance this transition. Well, I will start with the multilateral support and the support especially from ADB, and then with President Ajay Banga and the 10-year country partnership framework. Now, this is a $20 billion commitment over the next 10 years. Every year, the World Bank has committed $2 billion of help and support and assistance. There are 6 agenda items around that $2 billion support. 4 out of 6 deal with existential issues: climate change and population. And within population, I've just mentioned the learning poverty and the stunting bit. I'm sure the country director will expand on that in terms of what they are going to fund, and the ball is in our court to come up with investable, bankable projects and schemes, and therefore looking forward on the how part of it from this August gathering. The second is what is in our control, and I do think that's very, very important, because for everything we cannot run to our multilateral partners. For everything we cannot run to international donors. It's not about ego, it's not even about dignity. It's about the resources that we have and making sure that we repurpose these resources and this funding for what we really require in this country, starting with the flooding. So there was a big discussion whether we should go into an international appeal right away. And the government and the Prime Minister decided we are not going to do that, and I think he was absolutely right. Because we have negotiated in terms of rescue and relief, अगर हम वो भी नहीं कर सकते अपनी resources के साथ, इतना बड़ा मुल्क है, 24 करोड़ का ये मुल्क है, ये न्यूक्लियर कंट्री है, and every time कोई एक आफत आती है और उसमें हम फौरी तौर पे भागते जाएं बाहर, ये मुनासिब नहीं है. And I think the provinces and the Federation have shown that we can fund the rescue and relief. और आगे rehabilitation और reconstruction की बात होगी, जहाँ वो है, हमारे already funding available है, because we cannot continue to take loans to fund these situations. कोई grant आती है तो ज़रूर आए और हम उसको लेंगे, लेकिन ये जो funding और जो financing है और loans लेके इसको हम आगे नहीं लेके जा सकते. So I think in that context, using our own resources is going to be very critical. इसमें NFC की भी अब बात होती है, और I'm sure during the course of a couple of days this is going to come up. This is not about, us against you or against them or whatever. ये तो सारी चीज़ वैसी consensus के साथ आगे चलनी है. And part of that is horizontal indices, including the population part of it. And therefore, I look forward to very constructive discussions, inshallah, with the chief ministers, the finance ministers, during the course of this week and as we take forward. And I'm very sanguine कि जिस तरह हमने पिछले साल नेशनल फिस्कल पैक्ट को साइन किया था और ये फेडरेशन और सूबों की मुशावरत के साथ ये हुआ था, तो इसलिए हम इसको बिल्कुल कंसेंसस के साथ इंशाल्लाह आगे लेकर चलेंगे. बट दिस इज़ अबाउट सेल्फ रिलायंस एंड सेल्फ फंडिंग. And the last thing I just want to mention, because I am also conscious of time, because other speakers have to talk as well, that this has to go beyond our immediate resources. Private-public partnership, I think, is going to be absolutely critical as we go forward. So in that context, the social impact financing framework, which has now been established, and I'm sure Country Director of World Bank is going to talk about it as well. This time around, whichever funding resource we are using, it has to be linked with outcomes. It's not about tracking dollars spent, because we've had enough dollars. We have had enough dollars, and we've had billions of dollars coming in, but there's not much to show. And therefore, it has to be linked with outcomes. And therefore, from the government perspective, we need to be held accountable in terms of where this money is being spent and how this is being spent. And so from that perspective, it's also with respect to the social impact financing framework, the Pakistan Skills Impact Bond. And I feel very strongly about it because this is about NAVTEC and upskilling and reskilling our young men and women in terms of how we take it forward. And High Commissioner, I'm very grateful to the support that the British Asian Trust and the technical assistance funding that we have received from FCDO. So we greatly appreciate what you have contributed to this. And the first Pakistan Skills Impact Bond, inshallah, should be issued in the coming days. So with that, I just want to again thank the Dawn Media Group for organizing such an important conference, and all the practitioners, all the subject matter experts who are here. I look forward, and the government looks forward to being guided by you. Thank you very much.
वफाकी वज़ीर ख़ज़ाना सेनेटर मोहम्मद औरंगज़ेब पाकिस्तान पॉपुलेशन समिट 2025 से खिताब कर रहे थे. उन्होंने कहा कि आबादी की तेज़ी से बढ़ते हुए दबाव ने मुआशी इस्तेहकाम को चैलेंज बना दिया है. हुकूमत ह्यूमन कैपिटल डेवलपमेंट और सोशल सेक्टर में इस्लाहात के लिए पुरअज़्म है. बढ़ती हुई आबादी के ग़िज़ाई तहफ़्फ़ुज़ और माहौल पर भी मनफी असरात मुरतब हो रहे हैं. वज़ीर ख़ज़ाना ने यह भी कहा कि वज़ीर ख़ज़ाना का आबादी कंट्रोल, तालीम, सेहत और रोज़गार के शोबों में मरबूत हिकमत अमली बनाने की उन्होंने ज़रूरत पर भी जोर दिया.
कुछ दीगर खबरों की जानिब बढ़ेंगे. वज़ीर आला सिंध सैयद मुराद अली शाह कहते हैं कि रवां साल अक्टूबर